There's folks building mansions in this world of sin. They're only the wealthy are welcome therein. But God in His glory will level the ground on the great day of judgment when heaven comes down.
Well, you said that you knew most of the people in the area. What were the occupations of most of the people?
Most of them were farmers. Most of them, and then along about in the 1930s, the people began to go to work in the cotton mills. And you see, the cotton mills, you had 2 cotton mills in Carrollton. Some of them would commute into town and work in the mill, and then over this way you had about 18 miles to the Sargent and Arnco mills, and they went to running a bus from here in the late 30s. They ran a bus through the community to haul the workers over to Sargent and Arnco. So that helped the folks out financially. A lot of them they still had a little crop back home, or maybe the children and the wife looked after the crop while he worked in the mill. But of course now, if he worked, say, on the first shift, he'd come home in the afternoons and maybe put 2 or 3 hours in the field. If he worked on the second shift, which meant he went to work about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he might work 2 or 3 hours in the morning out in the field. So that was extra income. Right.
Well, and of those who worked and farmed, did a lot of the people own their land around here, or did most people rent?
Well, one fella here, now when we moved here, owned about 350 acres of tenant land. All around us here was tenant land. One man lived in Carrollton, owned it, and he had that land divided up into about, let me count the houses. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 or 8 houses on that land. And he rented it out on halves. But now he didn't want any white people on it. He wanted all blacks. He never rented to a white person. He rented it to the black people. And that land, some of it would be a 1-horse crop, which was maybe 30 acres of land. If it was a 2-horse crop, it might be 50 acres of land, see. And it was all on halves. He owned the stock, and they had to pay him a half of whatever they raised. Now I could go into some other things. I don't know how confidential this is, but some of those landlords were pretty shady folks. Pretty shady. And I could understand why even some of the blacks today, they know about that. They've heard them talk about it. But how shady some of those landlords were. And they pulled some of those, as the old word goes, some of those shenanigans on some of the real ignorant white people too. They did. Some of those landlords were pretty shady. But thank God my grandfather Cook, he was a landlord. He owned some land, but he was always fair. He never did anything that was shady. Never. He was a very honest kind of a fellow. Sure was. He owned the land up there. You notice the wood yard when you cross the railroad, all those logs piled up there. He had a little farm right there, but he owned about 2 other farms down in the country down here. And he rented some of that land out.
When heaven comes down, great mansions will burn. We'll all be rewarded the blessings we burn. Then my little cabin so close to the ground will be a great mansion.